Imainaya Kashankichi. Welcome to Nobody Taught Me. One voice, four lessons on saving a language. My name is Serafim Urguya Marca, and this is a podcast about why millions of people grow up hearing Quechua but never fully learn to speak it. Over 4 episodes, we will follow the life of one man, Victor, a bilingual speaker from rural Bolivia. His story helps us understand what the research on language learning actually says about heritage languages and what we can do about it. In this first episode, we go back to Victor's childhood in the countryside of Cochabamba, Bolivia, and we talk about one big idea: what it means to grow up hearing two languages from the moment you are born. Victor grew up in Montenegro, a tiny town about 3 kilometers outside Sipe. His parents spoke both Quechua and Spanish. His grandmother and the other elders in town spoke only Quechua. So, from the very beginning of his life, Victor heard two languages every single day. Researchers call this bilingual first language acquisition. The linguist Annick de Hauer, who studied this for decades, makes an important point. She does not call one language first and the other second. She calls them language A and language alpha because for a child who hears both from day one, neither one came first. They both just exist. The Hauer followed several children growing up bilingual, and two of them teach us a lot about what happened to Victor. The first is Toshi. Toshi was born in Japan to a Japanese father and a Korean mother. Her mother spoke Korean to her when they were alone, but the father, the grandparents, the school, the neighborhood, everything else was Japanese. Toshi understood Korean perfectly, so she could follow everything her mother said, but she never spoke it, not one Korean sentence, for years. Researchers call this being a receptive bilingual. You understand, but you do not produce, and this is exactly what happens to thousands of people across Bolivia. They grow up hearing Quechua from their parents and grandparents. They understand it, but they never speak it because nothing in their environment requires them to. But here is where it gets interesting. One day, a Korean boy named Dong arrived at Toshi's school. He spoke no Japanese. The teacher asked Toshi to help, and for the first time in her life, Toshi spoke Korean. Not fluently, not perfectly, but she did it because she finally had a reason to. Victor had the same thing with his grandmother. She spoke only Quechua. If he wanted to talk to her, he had to use Quechua. She created a communicative necessity. Without that necessity, the language stays locked inside, so he could understand, but he wouldn't have been able to produce sentences. The second child is Ramon. Ramon grew up in New Mexico with a Mexican American mother and an Anglo American father. His grandmother, Rosa, spoke Spanish with a lot of English words mixed in. So what happened? Ramon started inserting English words into his Spanish sentences when he did not know the Spanish word. He would say things like, no sé dónde están mis boots, because he had never learned the Spanish word for boots. Victor did the exact same thing with Quechua. He used the Spanish word gallo inside Quechua sentences for years, because nobody ever told him the Quechua word is in reality anca. He filled the gaps with what he knew, and people understood him. And because nobody corrected it, the mixing became permanent. The Howard found that whether children keep mixing depends on the adults around them. Ramon's grandmother, Rosa, never corrected his mixing. She just accepted it. But when Ramon entered a bilingual preschool where friends spoke mostly Spanish, he started using more Spanish and fewer mixed sentences. so the environment pushed him. Victor never got that push. Nobody asked him to repeat a sentence in Quechua only. Nobody said, well, there's a Quechua word for that. Andy Howard calls this the difference between monolingual discourse strategies, where adults guide children towards one language at a time, and bilingual discourse strategies, where mixing goes unchecked. Victor's family used neither one deliberately. Language just happened. And here's maybe the most important finding from the Howard's research. She found that in 1 out of every 4 bilingual families, the children end up speaking only one of their 2 languages. Not because bilingualism is too hard, but because the environment does not support both languages equally. The input is unequal, the necessity is unequal, and when one language dominates school, work, media, and public life, the other language fades. Not overnight, but gradually, generation by generation. That is what happened to Victor, and that is what happens across the Andes every year. So, in conclusion, growing up hearing 2 languages does not mean you will speak 2 languages. Proficiency follows input. If nothing in the environment supports a language with enough frequency, enough people, and enough reasons to use it, that language will shrink into something you recognize but cannot pass on. In the next episode, we will follow Victor into the classroom and we'll learn about the ingredients that make language learning work and which ones were missing from his experience entirely. Thank you for listening. This is Nobody Taught Me. 1 voice, 4 lessons in saving the language.